Here we are again, LJ back, and I seem to be driven by wanting to clear up these misconceptions that I see and sense that are out there about things like yoga poses. Because we're at an interesting time, aren't we, where most people nowadays have probably heard of yoga, especially I'm talking about here in where I am in the West, right? Um, most people have heard of yoga. Most people have an image even probably that comes to mind when they think of yoga, and it probably involves an exercise or a pose, right? And then, sure, I would also suggest that maybe a lot more people than ever have even tried yoga in some way, probably in a group class or maybe in a video or something. And what was my next part with that? Yeah, that I think also here's where the misconception comes in. Well, part of the misconception that you probably heard me say now many times is that yoga is just poses or exercises. And I love to tell you every time I speak, probably, that yoga is not just the exercises, right? That the exercises are just a part of yoga. But then also the misconception I think that most of us get when we think about a yoga pose is probably usually something fairly unpleasant, right? Uncomfortable, somewhat acrobatic, probably athletic, and maybe even looks like it hurts, right? And I think whether we've tried it or not, whether we've just seen it advertised or in advertisements nowadays, right? Or just the stereotypes, right, that go with yoga. I think that's probably the classic one that most of us have in our heads, much less in our experience, is that yoga is about the poses. And generally we're talking about unpleasant, uncomfortable, hard, potentially painful poses. And that somehow this leads to enlightenment, much less a yoga body, right? So I am so happy to keep clearing this up because, well, at least in the way that I like to share yoga and express it, it's actually the opposite. So, I love to share that yoga just means union, to join, or to connect. So it doesn't have to involve any exercises. But what makes a pose yoga, what makes a pose an opportunity or an experience of connection or union or joining or reconnecting, is what I like to teach when I do use the poses, because yes, the poses are part of the magic and part of the remedy and part of the therapy, but it's how we do a pose, first of all, in my opinion, in my experience, and what I love to teach, that makes any pose really yoga. So there's a few different pieces to this that might surprise you. So first of all, yeah, that we don't have to use poses to do yoga, but then when we do use a pose, and then we can start to see really any pose or exercise or thing we do with the body could be done in a way that makes it yoga. So that's really cool too, to open our minds to the fact that any position, any movement could be called yoga, and it's how we're doing it, letting it be a connecting experience in general, in the various ways we can do that, that makes it yoga. So that may surprise you. And so then you can start to see that then any pose can be yoga. And so if you're even talking about official poses that other people have invented, there's over hundreds of thousands of poses, right? And there's poses always being created. So that's another, I think, misperception, is that there's maybe just this certain set of poses that we use, and once you learn them, you know them. And again, that they're generally those more unpleasant, painful ones that somehow challenge us in a way that can be some connecting thing, right? And challenge is part of a lot of yoga poses, no doubt, and a place that we can play with challenge and use challenge and definitely get work for the body in important ways. But when we're doing it in a way that hurts, that's a strain that creates pain, that's not appropriate for our current body, which often we can feel that. And I think that's why a lot of people get turned off to yoga when they go drop into a general class. And if the class happens to be more of what a lot of people are offering these days, this kind of like fast-paced, flow-like, super athletic, pretty damn hard practice that is probably not appropriate for most bodies. But so often people will wind up in there and think, oh, this is yoga? God, this hurts. No, wait, I don't feel like I should do that. Okay, but I'll do it anyways if this is yoga. And actually have a quite disconnecting experience, right? So it's actually not an experience of yoga. And then they even leave thinking, I don't like yoga, right? Yoga hurts. And, you know, but part of why I came to this approach is because pretty early on in my practice with yoga, I was dealing with some pain. I had a little car accident that got me into some pain. So even when I was first doing my teacher training 20 years ago, I had a little bit of pain that I needed to be aware of and gentle with and careful with. So right away, I was tuned in to that reality with my own experience of the poses. And definitely, if I didn't watch it, I did hurt myself and I could do too much, even though I had amazing teachers helping me. So that definitely has guided my own experience with the poses. And then I was super fortunate to more and more go through trainings to learn to help people get out of pain. You know, that's part of what my path led me to. You know, my being in pain, I'm sure, is why I wound up learning about it and getting to develop expertise in how to fix pain with the poses. But yeah, the more that I learned what I learned through things like the Egoscue method and how much our alignment plays a role, and then you really start to realize, like, a lot of us adults these days have some sorts of pain stuff going on, have some sorts of alignment things going on. So there is definite good darn reason that we should not be doing some of those poses that we think are yoga. And there's a reason it hurts. And there's a reason that a part of you doesn't want to do it, because you shouldn't. So, you know, and at some point for me, you know, I really love to honor that it can be about challenge and that we want to master some tricky poses, and that, sure, if we can do that without hurting, great. But ever since I got myself out of pain and I've learned to keep feeling really good, my use of the poses is not so much about, you know, wanting to do acrobatic stuff or twist and bend my body in positions just because, because I'm just like, I just want to feel good, you know? And so my practice does have things even that are a little bit unpleasant and feel like challenge, although I know that they're appropriate challenge for my body. And when I get to create practices for other people, they do have challenge in them, and they are, you know, they do need to have things that are creating some new challenge, but in a way that's just some gentle work that doesn't feel like it's going to create pain or strain. And when we need to do it in a way that doesn't create pain or strain. And yeah, really, in my experience, most adults these days have at least some of this going on. So that's why for a lot of us, when we do just go into a regular class and try some of that hard shit, we end up hurting ourselves. You know, it's just not appropriate for a lot of us. So yeah, I find that I've become, I just realized, I thought you might find this funny, a pose snob. And oh good, do I have some of you talking here? Christopher Aguilar, oh my gosh, love you. And Lori, my sister. Yeah. Naked men's yoga. See, that kind of thing is cool. But yeah, so really part of what I always teach is that what makes doing a pose yoga is the fact that you're not going to do it in a way that hurts, and that you're going to honor your body and listen to your body and find a way to do that pose in a way that doesn't hurt. That's what makes it yoga, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I'll look at a lot of poses out there, you know, especially you'll see them in the yoga magazines and the, you know, the advertisements of just these tricky positions that I'll just look at it and think, ouch. Like, I don't wish to do that with my body. Although I do like to honor that some people, that's fun, right? And I mean, I like to do challenging stuff. I have a handstand in my daily practice, and yeah, so I'm all for play and adventure, I think. But I just, yeah, I'm kind of triggered by, I think, this misconception that a lot of people, especially people who kind of maybe are in this struggle with themselves, like, oh, I know I should do yoga, but I kind of secretly hate it. Because I think, in my opinion, it's because of the way that you've experienced it, because maybe you didn't get the right guidance with how to do poses, and you actually got taken through poses that are absolutely wrong for you. And there's a reason why your body said, please don't do that again. Yeah, so these poses can be amazing magic and therapy. And that's why really nowadays, for most of us, in my opinion, it's a lot better to go with a specific personalized practice, especially at first. And really now I would say then use your specific practice so you can go jump in and try that hard shit and not get hurt, right? Because you got to make sure you're like prepping yourself for that. So for me too, if I'm going to go into anyone else's class, I always do my specific practice first so that I'm ready for it. So I'm aligned and ready to be safe in there. But then I'm still doing it in a yoga way where I may not do a lot of what they do, or I'm definitely going to do my own version and my own pace. That's another thing. You know, a lot of times these flow classes may be really like fast and you're like trying to breathe along, and it's just not, in my opinion, supposed to be a synchronized dance, but it's even more powerful when you let yourself go at your own pace with your own breath, which is even easier to do on your own, even though being in a group is amazing, and it's an amazing part of yoga and form. So I don't want to talk anyone out of the community of yoga classes. But I just think, yeah, we need to realize that what makes a yoga pose is how we do it. And a lot of yoga poses are not appropriate for most of us. And it is important that we use them safely and wisely. And some poses out there just may never be a good idea for some of us, you know? And yeah, I just, as a postural therapist, I'll look at some poses and just be like, I just don't know why I'd want to do that with my body. So yeah, I'm happy to share that yoga is not about hurting. It's about making ourselves feel better. And if it hurts, it means don't do it. Yes, there is a truth to the importance of some work, but the right, safe, appropriate, effective work, and more like every day, is a lot more effective and a lot safer and smarter than dropping in once a week to some hardcore class and trying shit and then not doing anything all week. So yeah, that's some of what I want to share of why I become a yoga pose snob, in a sense, since I've gotten into this blend of yoga therapy and the specifics, and working with a ton of people, getting people out of pain and helping people stay out of pain. That's really my biggest why with the yoga poses and being a snob, is because I just am so interested in wanting us all to feel better and to stay out of the pain, and to know we can totally solve chronic pain, for instance, or acute pain stuff with these poses. But it needs to be the right ones. It needs to be safe, and your body knows. And part of the yoga is listening to your body. And if it just feels like absolute war and struggle and terror, in my opinion, it's not the most yoga approach to push through that, right? So yeah, so if you need any help, you know, that's what I'm here to do with those poses, so that we can use our yoga snobbery with the poses to know that, yeah, it's because they do work like magic when used right. But you do know, like one of my teachers I really like right now, Andrew Martin, he's an energy teacher, says this line that's only you know what truth feels like, which is a lot of what yoga can be about, right? Like finding ways to tap into our truth, but for sure also with our bodies. Like your body has its truth, and if it's going out or no, or even if you look at that class from outside and go, I don't want to do that, you know, like there's one thing that's resistance maybe, but then there's one thing that's wisdom and your body being intuitive. And yeah, there's a whole nother way you can use the poses that a lot of people don't know about, that they can be restful and replenishing and relaxing and really just make you feel better and help you develop a different relationship with your body that's more about listening and honoring and connection, right? So yeah, part of my mission to share the truth of the poses, man. So yes, I'm here to be a yoga pose snob, to keep us safe, but also to keep our practices sustainable and strengthening, yes, but because it's done in this honoring way, in this specific way, in a more personalized way, that honors really what's the good choice for us at this point, right? So, all righty. Love you guys. See you soon. Namaste. And